Why don't we get started and then she can.
Can you catch the door, too?
Yeah, shut the door there. Well, I think we can get started, then we can, just because we don't want to cut into the speaker's time either, as long as you know if she's on her way. Okay. Okay, well, thank you for being here, and we understand the governor's back in the building and up to his old tricks. We know that one of the issues he brought up today is civil service reform, which we didn't know would be the issue of the day. So maybe we can address some questions on that, but it goes into our message for today. The governor's presidential campaign is over. He should now pay back the people of Wisconsin. He should be open about where his travels were. He should disclose that to the press and the people of this state and pay him back. And furthermore, they should stop the extreme right-wing agenda that we'll see on display here today. We are talking about real people's lives, and people are going to be affected by these bills. Tens of thousands of women will be denied access to health care services. And then we hear the civil service bill, which again affects real people's lives as well. So we're going to start with Representative Shanklin, who all of you know has worked extremely hard to protect the taxpayers and to make sure that we don't have the circumstances that are going on right now ever again in Wisconsin. So I'd like to bring up our Assistant Leader, Representative Shanklin. Thank you.
So last month, Assembly and Senate Democrats introduced the Wisconsin Taxpayer Protection Act, which would prevent future abuses of any politician holding state office and running for federal office from actually taking taxpayer funds and using them for their campaign travel and security travel. Since then, Democrats in the legislature have been demanding a thorough account of Governor Walker's travel, security costs, and actual reimbursement of those costs. So far, we've seen some great work from a lot of the journalists in this room asking the Department of Administration and Governor Walker when or if they will actually report a thorough and detailed expense of all of the governor's travels and security costs, as well as reimbursement. We've heard a few numbers from the Department of Administration, but mostly they've been silent, and that's extremely concerning to us. We believe that given the governor's disastrous presidential campaign and the fact that he was traveling around the country and world on the taxpayer dime, now that he has debts in his campaign, we hope that before he pays a single cent to any campaign vendor or consultant, pollster, or whomever, the taxpayer deserves reimbursement first. That's what we're calling on the governor for. Now, some might say, well, the governor already said he would. That's interesting because in April, the governor's campaign PAC, Our American Revival, also said that, and DOA for months said absolutely nothing about the issue. So frankly, we'll believe it when we see it. We want thorough reports of the governor's travels and security costs, and we want the taxpayers reimbursed immediately, yesterday, if possible. So we're going to be talking about that and asking deliberately and diligently for the governor to reimburse the taxpayer until we see all of that money reimbursed and a thorough accounting of that. To talk more about what we'll be doing on the floor today, Representative Jorgensen, our caucus leader.
All right. Well, today we're going to have a privilege resolution, and we're going to ask that the governor give us the money that he owes the hardworking taxpayers of Wisconsin. He's been gallivanting all over the world, all over the country in his failed campaign to be president. It's over now. He has to come back, and the bill is on the table. He needs to pay it. Now, some have said, well, he said he's going to pay it. Well, I don't know how many in here believe that. No hands. You have every right not to believe that. When the governor says the check is in the mail, I don't believe him. And we have every reason to. Remember right to work? Are you going to do that? Are you going to push for that, Governor? Oh, no. And then he did. Hey, Governor, you gonna run for president or are you running for governor? I'm running for governor. So we have example after example. He tells us one thing and then he does another. So today we're going to ask our colleagues to vote with us to have him ante up, to pay his bill. If they want to stand by his side and protect him some more, go for it. But we're going to have a vote to show that that's what they're doing. After today's vote, we'll see who's who in the zoo. See who's going to protect the governor, who wants him to pay up his bill for the hardworking taxpayers of Wisconsin. It's really that simple. Thank you.
Continuing that theme of hurting the hardworking citizens of Wisconsin. AB 310 is a bill that demonstrates that. It's a perfect example of a political postcard that trumps good public policy. And that good public policy is providing access to health care for thousands, tens of thousands of men and women. This bill today shows how an ideological vendetta creates a collateral damage. And that collateral damage is access to care for these many men and women that go to family planning clinics. They do that by undermining the process that's been in place for 4 decades, almost 40 years. There has been an infrastructure in place to take care of these patients, and I don't see how we create that access because it isn't in place now. And in addition, the new Assembly Amendment or the substitute amendment would put religious zeal ahead of public policy. It would allow an individual who has an objection to not prescribe or dispense birth control pills or perform the life-saving medical screens that are necessary and inherent in family planning. Thank you very much. And Representative Taylor.
Hello, everybody. I'm Representative Chris Taylor, and unfortunately today in AB 310, we're going to see more continued policies from the Republican majority that literally sacrifice the health and lives of Wisconsinites to this very extreme political agenda. And today it's women. Today, we're going to see a bill that's going to take money away from existing health centers that are saving women's lives every single day through providing cervical and breast cancer screening and access to birth control. None of these facilities provide abortions. What they do provide is life-saving care to women. And that system of caretaking, the system that this state has had of family planning providers all around this state that provide care to women in rural areas, in suburban areas, in urban areas, is really in jeopardy today. And you see this very extreme ideological agenda take precedence over the people of the state of Wisconsin. You know, we know that most people in the state don't believe that Governor Walker cares about them. And when you see these policies coming out of this legislature, you can see why people are really doubting, do these Republican policymakers actually care about us, about our health and lives? And this AB 310 shows first thing that they don't, that they are willing to sacrifice the health and lives of women for a political talking point. And unfortunately, that's what we're going to see today. We will have some amendments on this bill. We want to make certain in a piece of this bill that allows a provider to refuse to provide family planning services, including birth control, which we've never ever seen. We've never seen legal protections for that in the state of Wisconsin. We at least want to make sure that women aren't going to be forced to travel to other sites to get life-saving care. So we're going to do our best to take out some of the most devastating things about this bill, but the truth remains at the end of the day that once again, Republican colleagues are sacrificing the people of the state of Wisconsin. Thank you.
Any questions for anybody?
That sub you're talking about with not allowing pharmacists not to, is that being introduced today?
Sure, and it's not just pharmacists. Let me be really, really clear. There's a sub-amendment that allows healthcare providers that work at these health centers that get these federal funds for family planning services. It allows them not to provide birth control, not to do cervical and breast cancer screenings if somehow they have a personal objection to that, not to perform STD testing and treatment. We have never seen such a broad denial clause in the state of Wisconsin. So this extends out the ability of a healthcare provider to not give care to a woman in a way that's extremely broad, applies to all kinds of family planning services. Again, we're not talking about abortion. These clinics don't provide abortion. This money cannot be used for abortion. These are life-saving, prevention-based health care that now women can be denied.
We need reaction to the changes to the civil service exams.
Well, once again, we can see that Governor Walker and obviously his legislative allies are going to break their word to the people of Wisconsin. Mark my words. During the Act 10 debate, you can go back and look at Wisconsin Eye. You heard legislator after legislator. You have nothing to worry about. You have civil service protection. I know we're taking away your collective bargaining, but you're still going to be protected under civil service. You know, I think finally people have caught on to the governor, and the Republicans, and they're constantly, their divide and conquer and their approach. Just like Representative Taylor said, today it's women they're going after. During the budget, it was seniors and people with disabilities and you know, our infrastructure and education and public schools and university system. They spared nobody in this state. But with civil service protection, Wisconsin has had a proud, long, sterling reputation for having a civil service sector, civil service system that protects against cronyism, protects against having just basic fairness for workers. And it doesn't necessarily surprise me because, of course, the governor said repeatedly during the Act 10, you know, it's just public employees. We feel differently about private employees. But then, of course, lo and behold, as Representative Jorgensen said, after he promised during the campaign he wouldn't bring back right to work during this session of the legislature. I'll never forget that quote in the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel when he was like basically tied in the race for governor. But then a few months later, lo and behold, there go the rights of private sector employees. And now they go back and with the civil service protection. So it's really troubling. It's unfortunate. It doesn't fit Wisconsin. And there's little wonder why the governor's approval rating is at 39%.
Are there any changes to the civil service system worth looking at with Democrat? Is this a blanket, opposition to everything, or are there areas where there could be agreement on things to change?
Look, we're open to looking at changes, of course, but what we've seen by them is that, first of all, they won't work with Democrats to try and come up with meaningful changes or try to hit the middle in any respect. I predict that they will take and have one of the most extreme right-wing approaches to civil service. That's my prediction.
They give examples. They say state employees couldn't be fired because they were watching porn for half a day at work, or they were even having sex at work. Is there a legitimate problem that they've identified that needs to be addressed?
Well, that's sort of the red herring. We're fine with that. Someone that violates the law, basically, in some cases, of course they should be fired. But that's the red herring. We'll see what the bill really says when it's finally introduced. I guarantee you that that'll be the part they talk about, and the part they won't talk about is that they'll essentially be a fraction of any kind of civil service any longer. And they're also talking about, well, let's not have descriptions. Let's let DOA, the governor's most trusted aide, decide who's going to work for each agency of the government, as opposed to the DNR to have scientists that are skilled and capable and know what they're doing. We've seen this drill far too many times. I think the people of Wisconsin will be very skeptical, as they should be. And I assure you, you can wait for that bill to come out. I think your jaw will drop, is my prediction.
One thing they're getting rid of is voting rights. Do you think voting rights are a good thing?
We haven't seen any of the language. We wait to see it. Hopefully they'll share it with us a week before they have the hearing at least, and then a week later when they bring it to the floor.
Does the civil service exam still have merit in your mind?
Again, you're catching us flat-footed, unfortunately. We haven't seen the language. We don't really. All we saw was the first press account that came out. Yeah, no, it's a fair question, but just give us a little time. We really were hoping today to focus on, this bill that they're bringing forward, which is going to deny important health care and birth control to 50,000 primarily women, and to talk about the governor's obligation to the taxpayers of the state to pay them back. That's what we really want to focus on today.
And really, to that point again, in the substitute amendment, this says that practitioners at these health clinics can just object, not even on religious grounds, and not provide the care. And I think that goes to the ideology portion of this session. So I think it's unacceptable. These tens of thousands of women need care. They have no plan for access, and I think that is just the wrong way to go.
With the medical exam boards that's coming up today, I just noticed that was an issue that was bipartisan in the Senate and was very partisan in the Assembly. I was just wondering if there was a reason for that. The out-of-state doctors getting.
You mean the licensure? It was unanimous in committee.
Okay.
So it was. I don't think there's.
Co-sponsorship.
Oh, yeah. The co-sponsorship was very bipartisan. yes, I'm on that, and it was not my bill, so.
Sure.
You
One
know,
more point.
yeah, one interesting thing about that bill that allows licensures to be recognized, you know, the justification by my Republican colleagues is to bring forth that bill because there's an access issue, particularly in the rural parts of this state. And we're all supportive up here of making sure people in all corners of our state have access to health care. And yet, in the same breath, the next bill up on the calendar is AB 310, which actually takes away access. Right in Representative Vandermeer's district, there's a health center in her district that gets federal funding, that will not be eligible for federal funding under this bill. So it's an interesting recognition on one hand, and yet somehow that doesn't apply to the health care that women need in rural Wisconsin, and we know that need is there.
All right.
Any other questions? Otherwise, thank you all.
Thank you.